Hey, today I want to share with you 5 ways that you can improve your sales and scale a sales team if that's what you desire to get to the next level. Before we jump in, make sure you subscribe, like this, and let's jump into the topic. One of the reasons most people suffer and struggle in sales is because they do not have a clear sales process defined. They're, quote, winging it. And they think that's okay because it's only them. But at some point, meaning the last thing you'll replace in your business is you in sales, because it's the highest income producing activity. See, if you replaced yourself first in sales, your new job becomes fulfillment, operations, finance, everything, because you get a good salesperson, they're gonna bring in sales. Now you gotta do all the fulfillment. But do that in reverse. Get all the other people established, all the SOPs, standard operating procedures, process systems, and replace yourself in those things before you replace yourself in sales. That's the last step you should do. And as you do that, you wanna have a clear sales process. So one of the companies that we have right now, I'm building out the sales process. I'm recording every sales call. I've got the script, I'm enhancing it, I'm testing it, I'm tweaking it, I'm doing all those things. And as I'm proving what works, then I could go replace myself because I've done it and I've got tracking and I've got things to do. There's a sales process. One of the keys to your sales process I would just encourage you to consider is, and this also takes the pressure off the pressure that most people feel in sales to sell the thing, because the reason I sell and do well in sales is because I'm actually not attached to it. If they don't buy from me, that's fine, because they're just going into my pipeline. And most people will buy from me by the 5th or 8th contact. And I already know that. The first sales call, we'll close 30 to 40%. And now some people are gonna say, that's not a great sales presentation or not a great sell. I beg to differ, actually, that these sales calls are coming in sort of cold traffic to a qualifying application to a call. A lot of them don't know me that well, and we can still close 30+%, but most of these people will close 30 days later after I've had multiple conversations and contact with them. So I don't really care, they're just going into my pipeline. And so having a clear sales process is the first step to improving your sales. All right, number 2, and before I go too far, I want you to understand number 4 that's coming up here in a minute. If you hang tight on that, you're gonna watch a really amazing clip that's gonna share with you a good insight to how to grow your sales team. But in this step 2, you've gotta have a training program. Now this is really easy to build along the way, especially with all the tools that are available. And if you wanna know some of those tools I'm using, go back and watch one of my videos on the 5 AI hacks and tools that I'm using to get back my time. Because in there I talk about one of these. All of my sales calls that I'm doing, right? I have the script, I have the process, I have the pipeline in my CRM. So when I pull up a call and I go on Zoom to have this sales call, I record it in Fathom AI. It records the video, it summarizes the notes, it gives me all the steps, and then I take the transcription of that call, I run it through ChatGPT, and I tell it to give me feedback. Say, hey, I closed this one. Give me 5 reasons why you think I closed this. 5 things I could have done better. If I didn't close it, I still go to chat and I say, here's a call I didn't close. Give me 5 reasons why you think I didn't close it based on the transcription. What did I miss from the customer? And I can take those, and now I create objection handlers. I create scripts around that, and I build that process. And now I have recorded phone calls. So when I bring somebody on, I've got the whole process already laid out for them, and they can watch calls and they have the script. All right, step 3. And this one seems like an obvious one, but I wish it were, but I've had so many calls with entrepreneurs and they're just missing this one step. So let me tell you, a couple weeks ago, I was on a call with a coaching client, and we're talking about this part of it, the brand new client and their sales process. I was like, all right, walk me through your pipeline. Let me see the technology stack that you have that helps you with sales.
They're like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Tell me what you have as a technology stack. Where's your pipeline?
He's like, well, I have this Excel spreadsheet, and I have this Excel spreadsheet, and this Excel spreadsheet.
I'm like, no, where's your customer relationship management system, your CRM?
He's like, oh, I don't have one.
I don't have one. That's not a business. The asset of the business is the CRM. And so I shared with him, we use one called Playmaker CRM, which I'll put the link to it. And one of the reasons I use it is because everything's included in it. And it's a pipeline. And the pipeline is the sales process, right? In every one of these columns on my sales pipeline, I can move a client. I can literally just take their tile of their name and I can move it to the next step and trigger automations and follow-ups, right? I can drive them to the next stage, and I've clearly defined my process, and my technology matches the process. It's super easy for anyone to jump in, pull up my database, my CRM, open up my pipeline and see who needs to be called today, what the notes were, what's the recording of the last call, what did they talk about last time, and see it all in one spot. If you don't have a tech stack like this, there's absolutely no way you're gonna move to step 4. All right, step 4. And in this step, this is probably the step that I get the most questions about, because it's now I've literally got all the things in place. I know my script, I know my process, I've got my tech stack in place, and I've proven that I know how to sell, and I want to now replace myself. How do I hire? Do I hire W-2? Do I hire 1099? How do I hire it? And I just came across this video the other day of Patrick Bet-David. I want you to listen to what he says, and then I'll give you some insight after that.
The difference between salespeople that are W-2, who are fed leads, and those who are 1099 that have to find their own leads is the following. Both could be lions, but one lion, the W-2 that gets salary and are fed leads, they're lions who live in a zoo who are fed steak and meat every day. You still need to feed them. And then there's the lions that live in the jungle who have to go get their own meat, their own food. They're both lions. One is fed every day, the other one has to go hunt. If you're planning on making it long-term in sales, I don't care what company you work for. They give you a salary, great benefits, great 401k, great leads, nonstop. And you refuse to hunt, eventually you'll be replaced. I'm just telling you.
That's so incredible. Great advice from Patrick Bet-David. I love what he teaches. I had him a few years ago on my podcast. Put a link to that if you want to go watch the interview I did with Patrick Bet-David a few years back. But I love this because he's telling more from the perspective of the salesperson, but it really got me thinking as the types of people that I hire and have hired in sales. And he's 100% correct. When I've hired W-2 salespeople, while some of them have been good, they struggle to understand they've got to go out and hunt. They've got to go out and find business. If they just sit back and rely on me, then they just get fat. And if you get fat, you get slaughtered. And that's honestly the key. It sounds cruel, but the sales world is tough. That's why 75% of most salespeople struggle and fail. But it's because if you have the right process, systems, tech stack, and you hire the right people with a key incentive plan, which I'll talk about here in a second, that will be a recipe for success, not for failure. All right, step 5. This is the one that entrepreneurs struggle the most with because they just don't do it. They don't want to do this. They don't like to track, and that is KPIs and performance incentives. And so here's what you do. You create a scorecard. This is very simple. So for instance, on our last webinar we did, I track all the numbers. It's very easy. And again, in a Playmaker CRM, you can track this in your pipeline. Put out a registration link. I track how many people registered for the webinar. Then 15 minutes into the webinar, we track how many people were on there. So if we had 100 people register and we have 70 people show, that's a great show up rate. Now we have 70 people. Then when we make an offer, we look at how many eyes were on the offer, right? This is a pipeline. This is how you move people through. Let's say we had 50 people that had eyes on the offer. Now my salesperson has 50 people that, let's say 20 of those took the offer. That means 30 didn't. Now my salesperson has 30 people to go after, to go talk to, right? And track that. And I'm gonna track how many of those 30 people week in and week out that they have, how many calls did they have, how many did they close, and we're tracking those metrics, the input that they have into the system. Now you can't control the output, the result, but you can control what you put in. And I want input measured metrics. Okay, because if they're putting in the input and they're not getting the result, then we'll know that, and we know that we've got to improve the skill set. But they could be really good and tell you all the amazing things they do in sales and how they know all the right answers, but they're not giving you any input. That'll never equate. You'll never be able to get. That's like the lion that Patrick Bet-David talks about at the zoo. They're in the cage, they're in the thing, they're eating here and there, but they are not going to give you anything but laying there and smiling. You want the lion that's going to go out and hunt, and I'll take that. The person who's giving me the input, and I can teach skill over time. I can keep improving that to a certain point. One other thing I would just say when you're hiring, and this will help you in your measurement, is don't hire for potential, hire for experience. Hire somebody who's come in who's had experience selling, so you don't have to teach them every little thing, and they understand they got to go out and hunt. They got to go out and kill it. They got to go out and get it. And that's a key benefit. And now I create incentive plans based on them hitting those input and result measurements. The way I do it is it's both. It's not just input, right? If they're doing the input, I'll have some benchmark they need to hit, and if they hit a certain result benchmark. If they do both, then there's key incentives that get released to them at different stages of their growth. Remember, salespeople, because if you're going 1099, which I'd highly encourage, there's some challenges with that as well, right? Because they got to control their own schedule, they got to be able to control it. But what you're saying is, here's the result, here's how you make it. Then because you have the incentives attached to it, you're gonna see them rise up to that. So I hope this is helpful. This is how you grow a sales team as you expand and grow your business. And if this is helpful for you, I wanna put the link to Playmaker CRM in there. Also, if you'd like us to help you implement this in your business to help you grow and scale, click the link and apply to work with myself and our team. And as always, if you like this, subscribe and share it with a friend.